What you crying for, Maga? What happened?
I just saw this white lady on here complaining that she just lost her job because she was hired under the diversity, equity, and inclusion program at her work.
Hey, shout out to all of our subscribers and members here on the channel. This is Who Raised Y'all, where we highlight those unique individuals going above and beyond to make our society worse.
We have a attention deficit problem in this country. You know, attention deficit, when you and I were growing up, our parents didn't use a drug, they used a belt and whipped our butt, you know, and told us to sit down.
You know, the kinds of people you'll see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates.
I don't give two shits that families are being separated if somebody's getting deported. I actually find it hilarious. It gives me a great deal of comfort. I have no sympathy that your child might grow up without a father because he got sent back to Mexico or whatever. I mean, y'all are welcome to go with him. Don't forget that's an option. That's a choice that you're making, right? I don't have any sympathy for your little videos that you're making on social media with all the tears. I don't give a shit. I'm actually fucking laughing at you that you're sitting there crying for attention. Okay. I find you guys to be subhumans. All right. Now, while you're sitting there judging me because I don't care that families are going to be separated from each other, I'd invite you to recall that hundreds of J6ers were separated from their families for something that equates to little more than a trespassing charge. Where were you then? Okay, bye.
Huh? What's wrong, Maga? Oh, you thought it was just a war against black and brown people?
Okay, so this is hilarious. I just saw this white lady on here complaining that she just lost her job because she was hired under the diversity, equity, and inclusion program at her work. And you can see she didn't want to say it, but she really wanted to be like, but I'm not black. But that's not what diversity, equity, inclusion meant. The #1 recipient of DEI hires is white women. The #1 people who have benefited the most from this whole affirmative action and DEI hired has been white women, 100%. And now all these white women who voted for Donald Trump are going to find out that DEI included them. And I'm sorry, but this is one of the best fuck around and find out moments yet, because these women are the ones who deserve to be fired. I'm sorry, like, if you voted for Donald Trump and you get fired because you were a DEI hire, don't come looking to me for sympathy.
I do find it quite interesting that it took for Donald Trump to be president for a second term for people, especially white women, to understand that DEI never meant black. It literally was a program that means diversity, equity, inclusion. That's what DEI means. And the people who benefited the most off of DEI initiatives were not black people. They were white women, Asians, at some points Latinx community, and the queer community at times. But usually if you're white and queer, not if you're of color and queer. And when I got into working with DEI programs at my last organization, I did it because I saw the numbers and I saw that people who look like me, especially black women, were benefiting the least from these programs. And newsflash, every opportunity that I ever got, I didn't get it because I was black. I got it because I was better than the other candidate and I had merit. I'm an educated black woman, so good luck, you guys.
Applying to all these different jobs and programs and schools throughout my life, I've always gotten into everything I've applied for. And, well, if DEI is really a problem, then why hasn't it stopped me from being able to attain the goals that I've set forth for myself? Perhaps those of you who blame DEI for your problems, it's really just something within yourself. Maybe you don't have the merit that you need for something, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're the lowest of the low or nothing like that. You can get better, but you can't get better if you just keep blaming other people Which kind of seems like what they're trying to get us to do, huh? If you have better thoughts about it than me, let me know, though. And speaking of DEI hires, it's kind of interesting that the new SecDef was only a major in the reserves, doesn't have a lot of knowledge about the things you would think a SecDef should have knowledge for, and yet he was hired for the job. And I don't know about you, but with all these other generals who exist in the world, there should be at least a few people, a handful, that have a little bit more merit behind themselves for that job, don't you think?
The signs have been there for years. I don't see why this would be a revelation to y'all. What Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and Mark Zuckerberg didn't do it for you? Oh no, we all gonna feel this.
When we were working in my former agency on DEI, you know what we focused on, Joy? Is we focused on opening up internship opportunities instead of just from people in four-year schools, people who go to community colleges or trade schools. We wanted to open those opportunities for them. That was one of our DEI policies. And you know what else we did, Joy? We wanted to make sure that those interns got paid. Because I don't know about you, but when I was going to college or law school, I was washing dishes, I was mowing lawns in the summers. I couldn't afford one of those fancy unpaid internships.
Same.
Well, that's a barrier to folks, right? To folks like all over the country, not just people of color, although certainly people of color, but people that live in small towns or rural communities. Those were the types of policies we were advancing.
Right, and I think that people on the right have decided DEI just means black people having jobs. So a black people has job, black person is DEI. That's what they've decided. But DEI really is, as you said, it isn't a quota for hiring lots of black people. It is recruitment. It's saying, let's also go to HBCUs and see if maybe those students might want some of the things Harvard kids get. You know, just the recruitment. Or saying these people are veterans who fought in the Iraq War. It's difficult for them to find employment. Hey, let's recruit among them and see if they might want these jobs, right? DEI is not a quota of black people. It's getting diverse groups of people of all races and all over the country.
You're absolutely right. There are long-time laws on the books regarding the civil service that have prohibited affirmative action quotas. So we've never had that in the federal government. But what you do have to do, like you said, is look at who you're recruiting. Look at what those applicant pools look like. You want to make sure that you have America represented in those applicant pools, so they at least then stand a shot to go through and show that they're qualified. Because let me tell you, Joy, the people that get through that federal job application process and get hired, they're qualified for those jobs.
One of the lesser-known, most common recipients of DEI is white Republicans. Before you get your panties in a twist, let me explain. As I'm sure you know, the majority of rural Americans vote Republican. And I can tell you this with certainty right now, the biggest state schools in whatever state you reside in have initiatives that give priority to rural students. The vast majority of students that benefit from those initiatives are white. You don't have to sign up for these programs. It's based off of your address and the county that you live in. Students that are from these counties are also likely receiving a lot more financial aid than the average student. And if you live in a state that has Appalachian counties, just go ahead and double that. This doesn't just apply to undergraduate institutions. A lot of medical schools do this as well. There's a huge need for people to practice rural medicine, and if you come from a rural county, you're more likely to stay in the area and practice medicine. So they give huge priority to students that are from rural counties. And again, if you're in a state that has Appalachian counties, they're prioritizing that too. The unfortunate reality is that most of these students don't even realize that they are the benefactors of DEI, and so when new students come to apply that come from these rural and or Appalachian counties, they're not going to get to benefit from those same initiatives. And it'll be too late. A lot of you seem to think that DEI is just for minorities and didn't realize that you were also a minority as well.
And unfortunately, even those who saw all of this and tried to stand in the way of it are going to feel it too. That's what y'all did, MAGA. That's why we look at you like we do. Yeah, you got us out here suffering because of your ignorance. Now you know how we felt when y'all were out here celebrating the demise of DEI.
Is there anyone out there who can give me one benefit of the DEI movement.
I got you, and you can fact check me on this.
One benefit.
Therapy for veterans, so there's one for you.
One benefit.
Mother's rooms, so when you're a fresh mother and you have to pump your breast for your children.
Give me one benefit.
Paid caregiver leave, so when a family member is about to pass away and your company says go home, we'll pay you while you see them away.
Give me one benefit.
Paternity leave, so when you're an expectant parent, you can actually spend time with your newborn.
You can give me one benefit.
Disable accessible places and spaces, so think like elevators, wheelchair ramps, handicap stalls in a bathroom, even ergonomic like displays and setups for somebody who might not be able to do day-to-day activities. I have a friend who lost most of the use to his hands and his job requires him to type. So there's a screen program that clocks his eyes and goes to where he needs. So there's an example.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is racist.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna make you more mad, Maga. I'm gonna make you more mad. How about this one?
When you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there. We want to hire the best people because we want the best people at air traffic control, and we want to make sure we have enough people at air traffic control who are actually competent to do the job. If you go back to just some of the headlines over the past 10 years, you have many hundreds of people suing the government because they would like to be air traffic controllers, but they were turned away because of the color of their skin. That policy ends under Donald Trump's leadership because safety is the first priority of our aviation industry.
So like JD Vance, I am a former Marine who used their GI Bill to attend Yale University. Here's my degree right there. And like JD Vance, who attended Yale Law School, I was there at the same time as him. We actually sat on the board of the Yale Veterans Association, which is an alumni association, and we both were able to be recipients of DEI efforts at Yale University. At the time that I was a student, there were only 5 veterans in my entire program. There are currently 25 in the Divinity School program now. In the undergraduate program, there are about 8 veterans. In the Eli Whitney program, there are currently about 15. Now, the law school, where JD Vance was a student, he was one of about 6 students at the time at the law school. Currently, I'm pretty sure their numbers are in the 20s or the 30s when it comes to veterans. So these efforts to increase and push diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that benefited JD Vance. And he is now turning around and he's pulling the ladder up so that people like him who grew up in poor Appalachia, who joined the Marines, who were able to use the GI Bill, are no longer able to follow in his footsteps because he wants to remove the same DEI programs that got him to where he is today.
What you crying for, Maga? What happened? What happened? Let it out.
We tried to tell you. Cue the music.
I never thought the leopards would eat my face. No, I never thought the leopards would eat my face. Well, I turned my back on my own kind, but I somehow thought that I'd be fine. Oh,
Many were surprised when they found out or realized that veterans fall under DEI. But let me share with you all the other categories that fall under DEI that are no longer protected. All right, the first category, neurodiversity. This category covered or protected individuals with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, or other neurological conditions. Socioeconomic status, essentially community members from low-income areas. The one we've spoken about was veterans. That one also is in that, falls under that, as well as active duty military spouses. Yes, my dependents, you fall under a category. And you are no longer protected by the DEI. Parental and caregiver inclusion, which means that they do not give a shit about you having to go take care of your child. No more flexible working schedule, no more nothing. Age diversity, they are going to be able to discriminate you if you're too young or if you're too old. Religious and spiritual practices. Oh, you gotta go pray? You're fired. You're no longer protected. Oh, it's a holiday for you? Don't care. You need to show up to work. None of this is protected anymore. Language. How many of us speak a different language and usually find a coworker that speaks it too and you're over there just chatting away? Yeah, you're no longer protected. And lastly, body diversity. You can now be discriminated by the size of your body, by what you look like.
You thought you could be J.D. Vance or Donald Trump someday? You thought you could be, you thought they pulled themselves up by the bootstraps. Is that what you thought? Oh, the Trump inheritance wasn't a giveaway for you? Oh, they told you it was just us, huh? Well, so I told you don't believe everything you hear.
I had over $10,000 in food stamps. Oh my God. So I told my husband, and he says to me as I'm crying, well, maybe you'll lose some weight now. Why did I vote for him? Me.
Actually, bump that, Maga. You don't believe hardly nothing you hear, but somehow you decided magically to believe that.
This post reads, veterans didn't know they were DEI hires because everyone thinks DEI means black. And this is the same thing that happened with affirmative action, because white women benefited the most from affirmative action, but got mad because they thought that people of color, black people, were getting admitted to college in place of them and didn't deserve to be. And the reason that the propaganda around affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion has worked this way is because of racism. And at a certain point, you have to realize that a lot of these people are grown adults who have the ability to look stuff up. Most of these veterans who do vote, most of these people getting into colleges who do vote, have the ability to look up what these actually are instead of listening to a charismatic man on a stage tell them what it means. And again, the reason that the propaganda works is because of the racism.
And if you thought we were mad before, imagine having to deal with everything that we deal with in general society. You understand that, Maga, because you know how you behave. So imagine being the object of your behavior.
Independent black woman, I don't need no man, and I'm gonna get whitey. And I'm gonna lock Donald Trump up, just like Letitia James, right? And she goes, now you're gonna elect me, and I'm gonna lock him up. We're gonna get Trump. Like the way they talk and their little DEI Shaniqua voices. And they all have the same voice. I'm talking about Kamala Harris, Letitia James, and Fannie Willis. Like meritless DEI Shaniquas talk the same way. It's very obnoxious the way that they talk.
If you don't get your motherfucking botch nose job, right nostril bigger than the other, herpes mouth lip because it's kind of red in the corner, sideburn thicker than mine, double chin, dirty neck crease, disproportionate bad built dimensions, buck tooth, leave it to Beaver, Squidward when he got that chiseled ass jaw look on, SpongeBob looking ass the fuck up out of here.
And having it framed as being something that we need, having the label tossed on anybody black or female or LGBTQ or disabled, whatever the case may be, who happens to have a position of any esteem, only for y'all to be the main recipients. How you like them apples? America.
So DEI is about that and about providing services for workers. It's not about the color of a person's skin.
And it's not a quota program.
Let's
just be clear. It means that, and it also, I think, for a lot of conservatives, they believe DEI just means black people getting jobs. And so when they see a black person in any job, they say, oh, that person's a DEI. They said it about the literal elected vice president of the United States.
Absolutely.
She wasn't hired. She was hired by the American people. 80 million Americans voted for her, but they can't see through her race and gender. So it isn't just about hiring black people and women, right? It's about disabled veterans being accommodated. It's veterans returning from wars are also under DEI.
Absolutely. And I see that as a veteran myself, right? I see this initiative as a direct impact and attack on veterans. Of the 2.2 million federal workers, 642,000 of those are veterans. And so this is, in my way of viewing this, is a direct attack against veterans as well. The misunderstanding of what DEI really is, it's on us to really educate the public as to what it really is all about.
That's right. Your infinite wisdom has spit on the veterans. Well, again, because you You also did it when you excused all that business over at Arlington National Cemetery. So
we do know that the cemetery has filed an incident report, and defense officials tell us that's because members of the Trump campaign staff were aggressive both physically and verbally towards a cemetery staffer. That staffer was trying to enforce rules that prohibit campaigns from filming at grave sites across the cemetery, but especially at Section 60. Section 60, as you noted, is an emotional spot in the cemetery for so many because it is where many young veterans killed in Iraq and Afghanistan are buried.
And then before that, there was a whole thing with John McCain.
I supported him for president. I raised $1 million for him. It's a lot of money. I supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, you know, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero. 5.5 years. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Then there was the airports during the Revolutionary War. It's a lot of spittle. It's very wet. It is extremely wet over it, like dirty snow. It's dirty snow is what we got going over there.
In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
So congratulations. I hope you're proud of yourselves. But y'all are the real Americans, though, right? The ball's in your court, Maga. The ball is in your court. Things will move in this direction until you decide to open your eyes and act in your own best interest. In the meantime, cue the music.
Never thought that I was leave my face. No, I never thought that I was leave my face. They bonded over bigotry, but they weren't supposed to turn on me. No, I never thought that I was leave my face. Now I never thought that I was leave my face.
Hey, I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video. First of all, thanks to an overwhelming response when I asked whether or not you guys would want to potentially move my weekly Tuesday 2 p.m. live tonight. You guys said you did. We tried it last week and it was amazing. So we're going to keep that going for the next week or two. So look for those Tuesday lives to be at night, probably 8 o'clock. There'll also be some members only lives as well. I tried that and lo and behold, I can just go live anytime. That is spectacular. So look for some members only lives as well, some polls on that side of things as well. I also have a brand new email for you that is admin@reesewaters.com. Just in case you want a quick response, you can email admin@reesewaters.com, and I can pretty much guarantee it will be quicker. It will be quicker than the other one. We also have a bunch of merch ideas that you guys have sent in. Some of them are phenomenal. So we went and got some people to help us with the merch. So I'm really excited about some of the stuff that we have on the horizon. You can check all of that out at reesewaters.com. Also, shout out to the new subscribers and members here on the channel, as well as those that have been helping me out. That is Regina, who's been helping me out immensely with research, and our moderators, Mariana and Dank, as well as our head moderator, Miss Ray. I'm extremely grateful for you guys. A whole lot more to come.